Hello, Nalini, Farah, and of course, the man that we are here all for this evening, Mr. Sanjay Khan. Congratulations on your book, Sanjay. And Sanjay, congratulations on your book. And yes. This one. Okay, maybe we can just dim them down a bit. So the book has, given a great perspective. I've read it. I read it in one day flat, completed reading it. And I think it gives a great perspective on the growth of Bollywood in the 70s and the 80s. And very interestingly, it gives us a peep into the lives of the stars at a time when there was no paparazzi, when there was no Twitter, and when there was no Instagram. So through your book, we get to know a lot about the lives that you people lived at that time, which I found a very interesting aspect of the book. And apart from that, of course, it gives me a new perspective about you. I think there is a lot in the book that is not in the public domain. So you reveal yourself quite a lot in this book. At least to me, I am meeting a new you today. So congratulations for that. I am not going to be asking you how difficult it was for you to write the book, because I know that when you sit and you start writing from the heart, it's a soul-searing experience. I'm not going to ask you how honest were you when you wrote the book, because I think any honorable person attempts to be totally honest, at least to the extent that we do not hurt anybody else. But what I'm really going to ask you, and I'm really curious about this, is what did the writing of the book do for you? When you were actually attempting to write down your autobiography, how did it make you feel? Did it help you introspect? Did it help you, an entire lifetime thinking about it, writing it down, all the ups and downs? How has the writing part helped you?
Hello. It's a very intelligent question. You see, unlike writing a script or a film, which is a pooled talent of many people like writer, director, actor, etc. Writing an autobiography, we are all aware, it's a solo exercise, a solitude journey. It also takes you through the journey of your life. It's a learning. You rediscover yourself more and more. In my book, like in anything I do, I put heart and soul, and I pushed myself to the extremes of the time zones. I belonged to those times. I went so close to those times that I almost believed that I could even get the aroma of those times. I've captured that aroma. I've put it in my book, like you kindly say, to share it with the world. My experiences. So it's a learning process. Writing an autobiography is a learning process. You rediscover yourself and the strengths and the weaknesses. Everyone has strength, everyone has weaknesses. But your resolve improves. Your commitment improves. I am more committed. I want to take more social, not politics, social. I want to make people aware that a commitment, even a small value, like word, giving a word and keeping a word. My father taught me that you must never be late for a meeting. I asked him why. He says, if you keep people waiting, you're insulting them. And he also said, if you go for a meeting and if the person doesn't turn up, in 15 minutes, you leave a polite note and walk. I said, why? He said, if you sit and wait for him, you lower your equity. So all these values I'm growing, I want to propagate these values in our Indian people. I want my country to be a great country in genuineness, not upper class India, one section sitting at the Taj Mahal, but right across the heart of India. First tier, second tier, third tier, right to the Kisan. This is my desire. I've authored another book which is focused on the plight of the Muslims the 250 million Muslims. They cannot be ignored. They cannot be denied. And I'm doing a service to my nation because I love my country. In what way? In my book, I urge them that they should educate themselves first, do networking, and then unity, and become something in, you get a job, you get business, you pay taxes to the exchequer, join the mainstream. And don't be dependent on the blithely promises of any political party that we will do this for you, we'll do that for you. That's a story. That's a fantasy. With due respects to my best friend here. So this is, I believe in all these things. And this book should come out in next March or April.
Okay, that's wonderful.
And I have also emphasized that this country was ruled almost 600 years by the Muslims. And Muslims and the Hindus together, the synergy on the genius of the Hindu-Muslim unity made India the richest country in the world in the 17th century, where our GDP was 25%. Shashi Tharoor is gone, otherwise he would have 100% agreed with me. Why? Because of the confluence of the genius of the Muslim and the Hindu minds. And I've got statistics in the book I'm quoting. Even the worst ruler, so-called Aurangzeb, who imprisoned his father and mother and so on and so forth, even in his time, the employment of the Hindus, right from the governors to the lowest position, was 35%. Akbar was 15%, 17% Jahangir. And present day, the high class employees of Muslims only 2%. So where, if you go, I told my friend, you go to Amar Jawan, there's a monument of war. You take a camera with lens and focus it on the walls. Almost 50% of all the shaheeds are Muslims. So, we have a responsibility. By helping the Muslims become a good, strong citizen, I'm helping India, because unity keeps India alive. Any aberrations in the unity, distractions or cracks, don't tell that Muslims will be sitting on the shelf like a dust, with one gust of wind they'll be blown out. No. So therefore, I'm going to participate more socially, not politically, to help the poorest. I have 25 Hindu servants in my home. Not from now, from my brother has seen it. When we were children, Nalini, on my dining table, our dining table, we never heard one word of any anti-community or religion, never discussed. We had 40 servants in the house. उसमें लक्ष्मी भी थी, अंतनी भी था, रहमान भी था, और हम लोग कभी सोचा भी नहीं था कि इसका ये मजहब है. हम इंसान को इंसान के रूप में देखते थे, उसकी अहमियत समझते थे. ये हमारी परवरिश है.
That's really wonderful, and it comes across beautifully in your book as well.
Thank you.
You have devoted a couple of chapters to it where you talk about national integration and the importance of it. A question that comes up to me, reading through your book is that, when you, as you rightly say, that it is only when you are standing at the edge of a precipice that you really realize the value of what you are missing out. When you're about to lose everything, that is when you realize the value of what you really cherish in life. And it's happened to you not once, not twice, not thrice, but 4 to 5 times that you've almost fallen off the precipice, and then you've come back. You have to be the chosen one. You have to be God's chosen one. That in life, whatever you have desired, whatever you have wanted, you have achieved. As your book also tells us, and we know, you've achieved whatever you desired in life. But also, along with that, every man's every fear has come true for you. Whether it is a fire, whether it is an accident of a helicopter, whether it is almost sinking in the ocean, or a knife attack, it's all been true for you. Why do you think you are God's chosen one? Why did it all happen to you?
This is a very simple answer. one should always carry truth and honesty in oneself. If I'm going in for a job interview, if a youngster walks in with truth and honesty in his heart and mind, he looks invincible because truth is indestructible. So I've always believed sincerity, truth. I carry the torch of truth in my heart. I cannot go and lie because that will diminish and dwarf me and I'll be nothing. I hope this is a sufficient answer. If you can ask me another question.
Maybe I'll discuss this separately with you. Farah, is there, as his daughter, as his eldest daughter, is there something you would like to add to this answer?
Yes, I think my dad has actually been very blessed in his life, because the fact remains that he is a very charitable person, a giver. All his life he's tried to extend his hand. He's always given more than taken. He's helped people, random people he's read about in the newspapers, random people he meets. And I think that's his true blessing. So if he survived all of it, it's only because of that. So he lives by charity. He actually does it, and he doesn't talk about it. But I think that's your blessing, Papa. But I would like to ask my father, we've spoken about politics, we've spoken about your will to survive. I think you should talk to the audience here and tell them who inspired you to join the movies. It was a very important man, someone you're very close to. Would you like to say something about that?
Raj Kapoor, the great Raj Kapoor, the conceiver of stories, producer, director, actor. And his genius, you see, we found our freedom. I've written a passage there. India found its freedom after a protracted struggle of 100 years. But nobody defined an Indian. It was Raj Kapoor, the onus was on him. He constructed the idea of who an Indian was. And through a kind of a subconscious drive, he created the noble Indian through his characters. He depicted of the country vagabonds from the villages with innocent heart, with a softness and honesty, caught in the rigors of a big world and big city. So these characters he played, the Avaras, the Sri 420s, the boatmen of the Ganges, songs like होठों पे सच्चाई होती है, दिल में सफाई होती है, हम उस देश के वासी हैं जिस देश में गंगा बहती है, मेरा नाम राजू घराना नाम, बहती है गंगा वहाँ मेरा गाम. So this was Raj Kapoor. Raj Kapoor gave an identity to the common man, and he has inspired me, because that was the first film I have seen, like you said, and I had the honor of knowing him all my life. And Raj Kapoor and I became friends, from an idol to a friend and brother. Until the last, there's a very, very nice anecdote there. I last saw Raj Kapoor alive was in the Breach Candy Hospital. And he was having a little crotchety fight with his wife. وہ میری شیشی کہاں ہے, یوڈیکلون کی 4711, اس زمانے میں ایک یوڈیکلون برانڈ ہوتا تھا. تو میں نے کہا صاحب, ہی یوزڈ ٹو کال ایچ ادر صاحب. میں نے کہا ڈونٹ وری, آئی جسٹ کال دبئی, ٹمورو کو آ جائے گی فلائٹ سے. تو راج جی روانہ ہوئے اور دادا صاحب پھالکے ایوارڈ لینے کے لیے. وہاں سے وہ شیشی بھی آئی, اور وہ پتہ چلا کہ کوما, ہم دلی آئے وہ شیشی لے کر, اور مجھے بڑا افسوس ہوا کہ ان کا دیہانت ہو گیا. اور جس دن وہ ان کی آرتی چل رہی تھی, میں دیکھ رہا تھا وہ دھواں آسمان کی طرف جا رہا تھا. 7 دن کے بعد کرشنا جی نے مجھے فون کیا, کہا کہ عباس پتہ ہے میں نے کیا کیا اس شیشی کو. ان کا آخری اسنان جو ہوا, میں نے ان کی ساری باڈی کو انوائنٹ کیا.
So beautiful.
یہ جو میں بتانے والا ہوں کتاب میں نہیں ہے, کیونکہ کتاب ختم ہونے کے بعد اگر ملی مجھے اجازت دی تو میں یہ ایڈ کر لوں گا ایک لائن. Krishna ji was one of the noblest ladies. She was 85 years old. She was very friendly with my wife and I respected her very much. She died. And we were there in their house. And she had willed کہ 4 مذہب کے مجھے رائٹس چاہیے: ہندو، سکھ، کرسچن اینڈ اسلامک. سارے 3 دوسرے موجود تھے لیکن اسلامک موجود نہیں تھا. Chimpu came running with me with Farah. He says, Papa, can you arrange a Maulvi? I said, for what? I said, if Surah Fatiha padhna hai to main padh dunga. So he says, that's all. I said, that's all. How do you call me? Unfortunate? How do you call me? Unfortunate or fortunate?
Fortunate, yes. An amazing story.
I had to recite that.
Yeah, but you did this for her. And
I'm sorry, I get a little...
beautiful moment. Yes, I can understand.
Creative.
Nalini, you are the only one we have on this panel we haven't heard from yet at all. So tell us the story of how you met Sanjay.
I am a great admirer of her. I never miss her show. Whenever she's on NDTV, I make it a point to watch. She is so intelligent. I am very proud to be sitting next to you.
Thank you so much, and it is just wonderful to be here. The first thing I have to say is how honest. Okay, thank you very much, and it's really wonderful for me to be here. What an honest man you are. When I read the book, unfortunately it came very late, so I haven't read the whole, but I look forward to it. What an honest man you are. So the first thing is that. The second is, I'll remind you in answer to how Vineeta says how we met. I was very late for a flight and I was very flustered. I had a big, I don't know what, a bag or something, put it up there and sat down, relieved that I hadn't missed the flight. And then once I was relieved, I looked around to see, where I was. You were there. I recognized you in a nanosecond, but I didn't. You were bent over something. And through the corner of my eye, a journalist will absorb everything. I realized that you're reading, and you're reading very seriously. And I said, my goodness, this means that I'm not going to be able to talk to him. He won't even look up. Well, anyway, but I wanted you to finish what you were doing. Then you looked up and I said, hello, Sanjay ji, I know you. What is it that you're doing here? You said, I'm finishing a script. Now, you said that script writing is a communal effort. A lot of people, filmmaking. But you were writing not one but 2 scripts. So you said to me, you took out your briefcase and said, look, this is another one. I was just completely devastated because for small documentaries, I know how difficult it is to write scripts, to match them. You were writing on 2. But that's not what I want to ask you is that I have forgotten really what the 2 topics were. But one of them was something like Swami Vivekananda or some, Subhash Chandra Bose or maybe something in antiquity, but I think more recent. And they were Hindu. And you said, you see, I'm going to do this, the serial. I'm writing a script for that. I wish I could remember which icon it was. And I said, fine. What was
Jai Hanuman.
Jai Hanuman, I think, had already happened, so this was later. But there was, maybe Jai Hanuman was also there.
Maryada Purushottam Ram.
Maryada Purushottam Ram. So, in antiquity then. Now, to me, I want to bring you to today. And the atmosphere today. Would a Muslim's patriotism, at that time it appeared to me as if it was, let's say it was Swami Vivekananda. So would a Muslim's patriotism be questioned today? You did it in an unquestioning manner because you are secular. You said the blood of Jawans courses through your veins. My question to you, at that time it didn't flash across my mind, but today it does. So would in today's in today's ecosystem, would you say that a Muslim's patriotism would be questioned if you did such a serial?
We are going through unfortunate circumstances that, see, I'll tell you a short story behind this. After I finished Jai Hanuman, I went to the Sankat Morshan Mandir and I performed a puja, Havan. And after that वो 7 बार परिक्रमा हुआ. जाने से पहले अंदर जब मेरी गाड़ी से बाहर आया मैं तो मीडिया मौजूद थी. वहाँ एक जी टीवी का एक नुमाइंदा हमारी तरफ दौड़ के आया. ओफिया, खान साहब आप अंदर जा रहे हैं? मैंने कहा हाँ, आप भी आइए. हाँ, मेरा नाम अंसारी है. तो मैंने कहा आप भी आइए. तो मैं अंदर दाखिल हुआ, दहलीज में कदम रखा, मुड़ के देखा तो अंसारी नहीं था. तो हम वापस आए. मैंने कहा ज्ञान मापी मस्जिद जो है यहाँ पर, वो मैंने सुना कि इट्स ऑन द हिट लिस्ट. आई वांट टू गो एंड से नमाज, कम विथ मी, इट्स 1 o'clock. So when I entered the mosque, he was behind me. When I stepped in, I turned, he was disappeared. I came out after 2 minutes, 2 रकात नमाज पढ़ के मैंने बाहर आया और कहा कि अंसारी साहब आप वहाँ नहीं आए. ठीक, हम समझ गए नहीं आए, कोई बात नहीं. यहाँ क्यों नहीं आए? कहता सर दरअसल मैं कम्युनिस्ट हूँ. ये मैंने किताब में लिखा है. तो देखिए माहौल है आज का, हर एक आदमी को बोलना है, डरना नहीं है, देश को बचाना है. ये जो देख रहे हैं हरकत जो चल रही है बाजार में आज, दिस इज नॉट गुड फॉर द हेल्थ ऑफ दिस कंट्री. वी हैव टू एक्सप्रेस आवरसेल्व्स, डू व्हाटएवर. टीपू सुल्तान यूज्ड टू से, शेर की 1 दिन की ज़िंदगी गीदड़ के 100 साल की ज़िंदगी से बेहतर है. सो हम भी यही कहते हैं, क्या करेंगे? मारेंगे, मर जाएंगे, लेकिन शहीद तो होंगे ना, कुछ काम के लिए. मैं जितना मुसलमान हूँ उतना ही मैं शिद्दत से कहता हूँ मैं हिंदुस्तान का एक सुपुत्र. ये धरती मेरी माँ है, ये धरती मेरी माँ है. और मैं हमेशा कहूँगा भारत माता की जय, हमेशा कहूँगा, मरते दम तक कहूँगा. लेकिन मुझसे कोई मेरी राइट्स छीन नहीं सकता. मैंने कई मरहलों से गुजर चुका हूँ और मैं कभी किसी से डरा नहीं ज़िंदगी में. और मैं हमारे देश के लिए कुछ भी करने के लिए तैयार हूँ. टू कीप द यूनिटी. विदाउट यूनिटी, यू विल एग्री, दिस कंट्री कैन नॉट बी वन. We'll be fragmented into 28 states, maybe 30 states, 40 states. There'll be a visit of Second East India Company and swallow us away. The unity is the strength of this country. We want to dine at the big table. We don't want to sit on the ground and eat crumbs. The choice is ours. You make your mind up. You want to do it? Please be honest enough. Politics is another thing, but statesmanship is another thing. You see, you must blend politics with statesmanship and bring a clean path, you know. And I'm sure my friend believes, we have spent a lot of nights together, days together talking. He also believes in my ideas, that's why I'm sitting next to him. If he didn't believe, I wouldn't be talking.
I would like to bring in Mr. Azad into the conversation at this point. And the book tells us, Mr. Azad, that you were one of the first friends to rush to Sanjay's side at the time of his accident on the Tipu Sultan set in the fire. And you were sent also by Mr. Rajiv Gandhi at that point. I want to ask you, what did you see at that point? What kind of a spirit did you see in your friend, and what kind of a state did you see him in?
Well, before I would narrate that very little small story, but at the outset I would like to congratulate Abbas Bhai for narrating each story truthfully in his book, because most of the events I know personally, And most of the writers, when they write autobiography, they try to hide few of the inconvenient parts of that story, which he has not done. Truthfully, he has, whether somebody will like it or not, but he has truthfully narrated them in his book. Well,
Although at some places some names are missing.
No,
I'm very curious about those.
That happens even the most prominent books also, because I think the book which he was thinking of and which I was expecting will come is the second book, because that book we have been discussing for quite some time with him, both in Bombay and Delhi and elsewhere, where because he feels strongly, and I think lot of many people in the country feel on the same lines which he's thinking. So I was expecting that book to come first. In between, I think as a matter of fact, this was a great surprise for me that in between this book came up, because I was expecting that one to come. And I think that is a very challenging task, and this is full of history. Well, I must confess that he knows a lot about the history, the world history and also Indian history. And during the elections, way back almost now 30 years, I used to ask him about the history if I had to speak something on a particular subject. So he's very good in history. So I wish him well, a large-hearted person, a truthful and straightforward. He's a straightforward, and he would like his friends also to be very straightforward, which he is. But the most important thing which you have asked is that Mr. Rajiv Gandhi knew that we are very close friends. Those days I used to host 3 parties in a year. As a matter of fact, right from Indira Gandhi's time, which continued up to Rajiv Gandhi, and after that I discontinued. The 2 Eid Milans and 1 Diwali Milan. So Mr. Sanjay Khan and Zareen Bhabhi would be, of course, always there, and so would Mr. Rajiv Gandhi always there. And Mr. Rajiv Gandhi will come first and go last. So then after everybody is gone, so it was our small chokri who will chat and discuss in spite of being a Prime Minister. So he knew our friendship, and which made him to tell him to take part during the elections in 91 election. That was most unfortunate that in the midst of the election he died. So I was sitting in office, I received telephone, that is a telephone from Prime Minister. So he's calling immediately. So I went to the Prime Minister and he said, "It's a very shocking news that this is what has happened. So you immediately rush." He said, "I have already telephoned Venkatas Bhaiya." Venkatas Bhaiya was the governor of Karnataka, to make all the arrangements to take him to Bombay, because Bombay will have more better arrangements than Bangalore. So you booked your ticket. So first I was shocked. I booked my ticket for Bangalore. In between I was and he said also, he was very cautious, I take my letter for Zareen. So meanwhile he was getting a typed a letter for Zareen. I think Zareen Bhabhi must be having that letter still with her. So when I reached Bangalore airport, so I got another message from Prime Minister's office. Those days we didn't have the mobile. The telephone was in manager's office that he has been shifted to Bombay. So instead of going to Bangalore, you have to go to Bombay. So it took me a while. So when I reached Bombay, in Bombay hospital, I couldn't recognize. It was shocked. I was shocked. And to be very frank, I must confess, I never believed that this man will survive more than 24 hours. So that was my impression at that point of time about his survival. And it was, you couldn't see him. I think you have seen one of the shots here, and you can believe this happening with a person like him, and having been so closely. Only few days before that accident, when he was going to, I think, Allahabad. So we had a dinner at our place with black beard and nicely, made. myself, my wife, we had dinner together, and then he went to, I don't know what made him to go to Allahabad, and immediately after that. And of course, when he was doing shooting, so he used to come during the shooting to our place, and we used to discuss about the shooting also. As I have said, on one of the occasions, he discussed with me about inviting Atal Bihari Vajpayee and giving him the 21 gun salute on his birthday. So in between the shooting, we also used to meet and talk and chat. Now I'm looking forward for the second book. I think that's going to be most challenging and most timely, and I think that would be read, I think, across the length and breadth of the country.
Yes, that's the one you're waiting for. We are also. But before that, we will read this one. I will make everybody else read this one because it's amazing the kind of little tidbits and snippets in the book. I would love to recount some of them, but I'm not going to take away, the pleasure of reading the book. And Sama, I'm just coming to you. But before that, one of the things that you keep repeating in your book is the importance of the dining table. You keep talking about the dining table, the whole family collecting around the dining table, eating together, talking together, and the values that are shared with the children at that table. You come across as a wonderful family man, and your family comes across as, very together, very loving. What is it that binds a family so well? Please enlighten us.
Just one thing, Abbas bhai. I have known large number of people in the industry, but hello, hi, that's all. I have hosted also them at my residence, but in Bombay they will say hello, hi, we'll see, in Delhi. But Abbas bhai is unparalleled host. I was thinking that I'm a good host, but I think he has already surpassed that, and he has taken that that mentally. So he's one of the best hosts in Bombay. I can say that when it comes to talking about the table, dining table, he's the best host, not only for the family members but also for the friends and well-wishers. Thank you.
That's a very excellent question. And see, like Napoleon said, the first university of a child is the mother's cradle. And I am in the habit of now saying that the dining table is the second university. Over food we bond. Even as a child, I remember my mother would always make food for at least 2 or 3 people more. And the chat was that in case we get guests at home, unexpected, they have to join us to lunch and dinner. Not like in an American home, you go, husband and wife eating, and they say, okay, you wait, we'll finish our dinner and come out. It was the other way, our Indian hospitality. My mother was a generous lady. Her generosity was unlimited. Her generosity is like a beacon that influenced my entire life. So hearing and listening to all this, they inculcated inside us hospitality. Always respecting people, inviting to our homes. And we always say, my mother used to say, टेबल की रौनक जो होती है मेहमानों से बनती है और फैमिली सब मिल के खाना है तो टेबल इज़ अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टेबल when people get together and eat and talk about each other's problems, we try to help each other. So this bonding, that is a spirit which has kept us, the impetus which I have received in life.
So that's really beautiful. What an important institution the dining table is. Farah, what are the values that you learnt at that dining table?
I'll keep this quick, but I just want to say, for us, food was a way of getting together, and we discussed festivals were never about Hindu festivals, Muslim, Christian. It was all about food and celebrations. So the values we had was to share our food, to do charity, to be good people. And I want to say something to my mother who's here. My mother is the binding factor of this entire family. My mother is somebody who has stood by my father through all the ups and downs in his life. And she's been an example to all of us to do the same. It brought, the dining table brought us together as a family. We've been through a lot of ups and downs. And I just want to say one thing about my mother very quick. When my father was disfigured and burned, my father never knew the extent of his burns, because this is not in the book, but this is something you should know. My mother would enter the hospital room dressed head to toe, glamorous, and would make him believe that he was well, because she never wanted any one of us to make him believe that he was otherwise, because a patient only looks at a relative or someone visiting them and realizes how bad they are. I think my father never realized how bad he was because my mother never let him. And she would always tell us when she walked into that room, walk in with confidence, be happy. And when she'd walk out, she'd burst into tears, but she never let him see those tears. So I want to say, Mom, I love you. I love you so much because you are my idol. And my father is my pillar of strength. So thank you, Papa, and thank you, Mom.
So beautifully said. And I don't think anybody in this country or anybody who reads the book is going to have any doubts about that, because the book is so full of you, Zareen. And it is like, we all know the strength that you are for the family, and it's beautiful to see you get back all the love that you've given your family. It's very beautiful indeed. Yes, may it always be so. Beautifully said, yes. Sabah, you have read the book, have you? And is there something that jumped out at you from the book? What is it that tell me the one thing that jumped out at you?
I've had the privilege of hearing live narratives from this wonderful storyteller. So a lot of the stories that he touched upon, I was acquainted with, but the way they were written were just so beautiful. They're these beautiful postcards from an arc of life, ups and downs, but the entire arc of a life, an extraordinary life. So, and a lot of the expressions, the way he's written, are just outstanding. So while I enjoyed so many of these stories from the man himself, but to read them like this, in the contemplative manner in which he's written them, I enjoyed the language, I enjoyed the writing so much. And I have to compliment him for that, because I was finding myself underlining pages, paragraphs, for me to remember and come back to. So what jumped out, I think it's courage. It is definitely courage. Of course, it's always that. But the extent of it, for example, the chapters on his accident, we knew everything, but narrated from the man himself, it's just incredible. And there's no bitterness, there's no, none of that. It is incredible. And it's brief, it's not long drawn out, it's just an incredible narrative of, and the 3-4 things, what he felt from within, when he was really on the verge of losing everything. It was just unbelievable. For me, it was very touching, and it gave me goosebumps. So extraordinary. But one thing I want to add here, on the home they've built, the family they've built. Of course, we were there when the accident happened. I remember Asghar and I, we flew down to Bombay, and we saw it for ourselves. But the extraordinary quality of that home, of a blessed home, was evident, because in spite of the extreme situation, the dire situation the family was in, the home ran like a clockwork. The staff were family. Everything was working perfectly like it always did. It was a haven. It's a haven. It's a home that nourishes your soul. It's warm, it's wonderful, and it's just, it's incredible. And that was an incredible experience. I was saying that this is a family in crisis, and look at this home, and the hospitality and everything was just perfect.
I'm going to bring you back into the world of films now, Sanjan. You can't escape that. You have to comment on the films today. Having lived through having worked in Bollywood through the 70s and the 80s, the 60s, 70s and 80s, and having made films, having worked in so many films, you have worked with almost every star of that era, and you had amazing movies that were made by you and enacted by you. So when you compare that era to today, what do you think is different? Tell us something about the professionalism here today.
Can I just add into that, because it's getting late? Sanjay ji, would you like to comment? You're a highly intelligent person, I know, from that plane sharing the flight with you. Would you like to tell us what you think of the Me Too movement in films, not just the film stars, but the entire process of making films? You yourself have gotten somewhere, there is a little hint of that. So, do you want to comment on that too?
I would like to answer your question. See, the 70s made the foundation for the film industry of today. And after Abdullah, I took a self-exile because of certain circumstances, explained in the book. Perhaps I hastened the progress of Amitabh Bachchan because I was not on the scene for 6 years.
Yes, very probably, yes.
Every producer used to come to me first because Dilip Saab used to do 1 or 2 pictures. Anyway, today I am happy the film industry is well settled. There is abundant talent. I'll just digress for a short while. Sanjay Gandhi, God bless him, he was such a visionary, called me and said, I've got a documentary to show you. I was curious. Jagdish Statler called me and said, please come. I entered 24 Akbar Road. This is related to your question. Mrs. Gandhi was there, Dhirendra Brahmachari, Pranab Mukherjee, Maneka Gandhi, Sanjay Gandhi, and myself and Jagdish entered. Mrs. Gandhi pleasantly nodded to me. I said, madam. So we all sat down and watched this movie. After the movie, Sanjay said, I want to talk to you. And we went out. And we stood exactly where Mrs. Gandhi was assassinated, on that pathway. And he said to me, I have a vision. I feel that the film industry has a power which can plant a flag in the heart of every country on earth. A flag in the heart of every country in the world. We must make best films and win over the hearts and minds that will promote tourism to such an extent that we need not do anything else. Tourism is a huge, because we have immense assets. Like the assets we have in historical assets, none of the countries in the world has. Sanjay Gandhi asked me, I said, what can I do? Tell me. He says, I want you to prepare a paper. Give it to me as fast as possible to revamp this industry. I want to help this industry. I was very excited, very happy. I went back to Bombay. I called my consultant, said, start work. 7th day, I get a call. Sanjay Gandhi is crashed, dead. I reached Delhi. Airport, I was waiting for my car to come. My feet started burning. Then I looked at my feet. I was not wearing chappals. I rushed from the house. See the impact of that man's passing away. Because I love that man because he had such a vision for this country. He was a great contributor. Now coming back to the film industry, the film industry of India today has a promise. It should not be film industry of India. I'm talking South, Telugu, all Kannada, Malayalam, Hindi, Marathi, all films, Bengali. They have a great future, providing the state governments and the central governments give a big push. And what we have done in our time, I'm happy it's blossoming to a big flower. So, Nalini's question, I cannot give a direct answer because it's not related to the event today. At the same time, what people think about the industry, the perception of the industry is not at all. It is not at all. I would say you'll find such muck in corporates, in elsewhere. I have been through 45 years of films. I have never heard such blasphemy of this kind of things which is happening. I'm not even mentioning that. I do not want to be part of it.
Bye, Pops.
But crime must never go unpunished.
Yes.
That is